Welcome back to another episode of The Road Chose Me. And on today's episode, I'm going to talk about the top 5 mistakes I see people make when they're designing and building their overland vehicle to set out on grand adventures. So I know there's a lot of different information out there and a lot of people are going to tell you you need this or you have to have that. And in my experience, a lot of that information is actually counterproductive. And it leads to people thinking they need all kinds of equipment or to do all kinds of modifications that actually, when I've been out driving around the world, I've never seen anyone on the road with all of that stuff and all of those modifications. So while people who drive to overland shows might have all of those things, people who are really out there doing it, they simply don't have those things. So let's get right into it. The top 5 mistakes that people make when they're building their overland vehicle. So the first mistake that I see people make, and it really flows on into all of the others, is that people set out trying to build the ultimate overland vehicle. Or sometimes you see it called the go anywhere, do anything vehicle. And I'm just going to put it out there and say, that's not possible. There is no such thing as the ultimate vehicle. No matter what you have, I'll come up with a scenario where it's not going to be brilliant, whether it's not great in the Arctic in the winter, or it's not great on small jungle roads in the Congo. Maybe it doesn't get amazing gas mileage. Maybe the spare tire's so heavy you can't change it yourself. There's a million reasons why different vehicles aren't ideal in all situations. But even more important than that is that your needs are going to change and be different throughout your different trips. So you might set out thinking that sleeping in a ground tent is fine with you and you'll do that for a year or 2 like I did on the Pan American Highway. But I guarantee you'll get to a point where you say, no, I don't really like that. I'm going to try sleeping inside my vehicle. So your needs have changed, which means the vehicle you already have is no longer the ultimate because you're doing things differently. You might travel in a part of the world where drinking water is perfectly okay, like North America, so your vehicle's great. But then when you ship it to Africa, now you don't have a filtration and UV treatment system. That vehicle's not the ultimate for Africa. So it's important to remember there is no such thing as the ultimate overland vehicle. And if you try to build one, you're going to spend an enormous amount of money, a huge amount of time, and you're never going to succeed anyway because inevitably your needs will change. So don't set out to build the ultimate vehicle. That's kind of crazy talk. Set out in the vehicle you already have, go and have adventures and learn what you need. That's way more important than trying to build the ultimate. The second biggest mistake that I see people make is they focus on the wrong aspect of vehicle building. And I know tons of people have gotten into overlanding through 4-wheel driving. Maybe they watch King of the Hammers or the Baja 1000. And let me just tell you, those events, they're not overlanding. The people in those events, they're not carrying all of their food and clothes. They don't really have anywhere comfortable to sleep. They don't have cooking gear. All of that stuff means what they're building is like desert racing buggies. They're not building overland vehicles. So what it all comes down to is don't focus on the tires that you're going to run. Don't focus on the suspension. Don't focus on your engine and your supercharger. All of those things, they're all for off-roading. They're not really the focus of overlanding. And at the end of the day, it's kind of irrelevant. As long as they take you from A to B, that's what really matters. But what does matter and what you should focus on is the 3 things I've talked about before. Where are you going to sleep? Where are you going to cook? And where are you going to hang out when the weather's really nasty or the mosquitoes are horrendous? Those 3 things are going to have a bigger impact on your trip than anything else about your vehicle. The particular suspension you have, you're going to forget about it long before you forget about the bad night's sleep you have all the time because you bought the cheapest rooftop tent in the world. So what I really want you to think about is focus on the fact that your vehicle is your home and you're going to be living in it. Make it really nice. Make it so that you enjoy yourself while you're in your vehicle and your trip is going to be so much more enjoyable and you're going to want to get out on trips much more often than if you have really bad sleeping, eating really bad food, or you don't have anywhere to hang out when the weather's really nasty. The third mistake that I see people make building their overland vehicle is they try to build the vehicle in the wrong order. So don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that you shouldn't upgrade your suspension or you shouldn't upgrade your tires. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is that most four-wheel drive vehicles from the factory, they are very capable and they have been very carefully designed with suspension and tires that work really well. If you're just throwing some camping gear in the back and heading out for weekends or even a week-long trip, the systems already on the vehicle are perfect for your needs and you do not need to upgrade them. And the reason I'm saying this is because lots of people start with the suspension, but the problem with that is you don't know how heavy your vehicle's going to be until you've finished with everything else. Maybe you are going to add a rooftop tent and a fridge and drinking water and all of your clothes and all of your food and your cooking equipment. And at that point, your vehicle's going to be significantly heavier. And it's at that point when it's all ready to go and you've used it a few times and you've figured out the things you want to bring with you, at that point, you should start thinking about, do I need to upgrade the suspension now to carry all of the weight that I have on board? And if you didn't add much weight, then the answer is no, you don't need to upgrade your suspension. But if, like me, you add everything almost including a kitchen sink, then yeah, you probably want a mild suspension lift, but keep in mind, it's not the lift you're interested in, it's the weight carrying capacity. So be careful, make sure that you don't put the horse before the cart. Figure out how heavy your vehicle is and figure out the kinds of trips that you enjoy doing before you even consider upgrading the suspension or the tires. Because as it comes, they're already perfectly good if you're just doing small trips and you haven't added a lot of weight. So make sure you build your vehicle in the right order. The fourth mistake that I see tons of people go down the rabbit hole is trying to do an engine swap on their vehicle. And this one's really near and dear to my heart because I had to learn this the hard way. I originally thought that I really needed a diesel engine to go to Africa. So I had a different four-door Wrangler that I paid to have a Mercedes six-cylinder diesel swapped into. And even now on paper, it seems like you should be able to get it done for about $10,000. It seems like it'll probably get better mileage and probably be more durable because it doesn't have any computers and it's a much simpler engine. All of those things are really good in theory, but what I learned the hard way and what I've seen a lot of friends struggle with as well is that it just doesn't turn out that way. Vehicles these days, they're so carefully designed and they've spent thousands of hours testing them and designing the engine specifically for the vehicle. It's pretty much impossible that you can put a different engine in a vehicle and actually improve it. You're never going to improve the reliability. It's extremely rare you're going to improve the gas mileage. And on top of that, the amount of money that you're going to spend trying to do it far, far outweighs any savings or any possible benefits. To put it into perspective, I wasted $20,000 trying to put a diesel in a Wrangler like this one. It was a huge blow and it almost destroyed my whole trip. Put that into context, I barely spent any more than that to drive all the way to Argentina for 2 years. So even today, I get comments where people say, oh, you should totally put a diesel in that thing. Or friends say, oh, you're really slow. Why don't you do a Hemi swap and put a V8 in there? And I just shake my head and I say, I already drove this 54,000 miles around Africa and it never had a single engine problem. Why on earth do you think you can make it any better by putting in a non-factory engine? Like, how does that even make any sense? It doesn't. And my advice to you and to anyone thinking about building an Overland platform, don't even consider an engine swap. They're always a money pit and they just don't make sense. The fifth and final mistake that I see people make when they're designing their Overland vehicle is they aim to have enormous capacities, way more than makes sense. So for example, on my solar video, I saw a comment where someone said, I have 200 amp hours of battery storage, which is way more than I'm ever going to need. Say, oh, but why would you want more than you need? Or on my video about fuel range, somebody said they had a 2,000 mile range because of all their extra tanks. And literally the Gobi Desert in China is the only place you may need a range that long. So unless you're specifically designing and building a vehicle to go to the Gobi Desert, I don't really think it makes sense to carry all of that fuel around or to use up all that valuable space on fuel tanks that you probably could have had a water tank or some other kind of storage. Same thing goes with solar panels, same thing goes with drinking water. Don't just assume that more means better. And I know that's been a marketing tactic forever, in the same way that 40-inch tyres are better than my 33-inch tyres just because they're bigger. When it comes to overlanding though, that doesn't work at all. Because in my experience, overlanding is a real balancing act of all of the different things we want to bring with us. We have to balance the amount of weight we've got, and we have to balance the amount of storage and payload that we can bring with us. So even if I did have a 2,000 mile driving range, I'd have no room for a water tank, I wouldn't be able to have a fridge, I wouldn't have all of my living stuff. So where would I ever be able to go 2,000 miles? It's not like I'd enjoy myself eating nice food or camping. So keep in mind, you have to strike a balance, and you have to say, okay, if I aim to go wild for a week at a time, how much drinking water does that necessitate? That should be my design goal. That's how much drinking water to design for. Don't then double it or triple it and say, now mine is the ultimate vehicle because I have way more than I need. That's not going to work, and you're going to run out of capacity in some other quantity. So keep in mind, don't just assume more is better. When it comes to overlanding, that is not true. So there you have it. Those are the most common mistakes that I see people make when they're setting out to build their overland vehicle. So what did you think of my list? Do you disagree with me? Have you done some of those things and you think it's worth it? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Hit that thumbs up button and be sure to subscribe to the channel. As always, there's plenty more real world advice to come and adventure videos as I set out on the road next week for a mini adventure of my own. So thanks for watching. Until next time, I hope to see you out there.